मैं थोड़ा हरजाप तो हरेक मंडे 7 बजे तुसीं तो मैं आपस में गल्लां करांगे साडी कम्यूनिटी दियां साडे बच्चों दियां साडे बाहर रहिंदे NRIयां दियां साडे देश दियां तो जो अजकल दे इशू हैगे सानू अफेक्ट करदे उन्हां दियां So let's talk with Harjap. सत श्री अकाल तो प्रोग्राम देखते हैं जी आए प्रोग्राम के अज थानू पता ही है असी कम्यूनिटी टॉपिक्स बारे गल करते हैं वी टॉक अबाउट कम्यूनिटी रिलेटेड इशूज़ प्रॉब्लम्स वी ट्राई टू हेल्प आवर कम्यूनिटी उन्होंने मदद करने की कोशिश करते थोड़े तो खास तौर पर बीबियां तो सारे भरावां दे जो कोई मुश्किलों में जा रहे हैं तो कोई ना कोई टॉपिक जो यंगस्टर भी इफेक्ट करता उन्होंने बारे भी गल करते हैं अज थानू मैं चेता होगा मैं फ्राइडे थानू दसिया सीगा कि साडे असीं गल करांगे एल्कोहल बारे शराब बारे कि यह नहीं कि पीती किन्नी जाती है तो डब्बी किद्दां जाती है वो तो सारिਆਂ ਨੂੰ पता है पर एक्चुअली ये बुराइयां की हैं तो प्रॉब्लम क्रिएट कर सकता की नहीं तो इसलिए मेरे स्टूडियो में दो स्पैशल गैसट आए हैं उन्होंने पहला असी जी आए सत श्री अकाल करिए पहला तो डॉक्टर गुरप्रीत पन्नू जी सत श्री अकाल जी तो सुखदीप सिंह ढिल्लों ढिल्लों साहब तुसी I believe you're UK born and bred here.
Yes.
And you yourself, doctor, as well?
That's right, yes, I am.
And you work, or you closely with people who've got alcohol-related problems, and you've done a lot of research on there. And you're actually doing run a program and project on it.
That's correct, yes.
And tell us a bit more about the project, about what you do.
I work for a charity called Drug and Alcohol Action Program, which is based in Southall.
Right.
We basically empower different communities for addiction problems around Southall and stuff like that.
Drug and alcohol related.
That's correct.
As well, ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਕਿ Southall ਵਿੱਚ ਬਹੁਤ ਬੜੀ problem ਹੈ alcohol related problems.
ਹਾਂਜੀ.
Examples ਦਿਓ ਸਾਨੂੰ what sort of problems do you deal with on a daily basis? ਕਿਹੜਾ ਦੀ problem ਹੈ?
ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਸ਼ਰਾਬ ਦੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਵੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ also drugs ਦੀ ਨਸ਼ਿਆਂ ਦੀ problem throughout the Ealing borough ਇਹ problem ਆਪਾਂ ਦੇਖ ਰਹੇ ਆ through our charity work.
And ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਬੰਦੇ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਆ ਜਾਂ families ਆਉਂਦੇ ਆ help ਲਈ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਆ
ਹਾਂਜੀ
ਤੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ help ਕਰਦੇ ਆ and ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਦੇ ਕੇਸ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਆਉਂਦੇ give us some examples of how alcohol affects people's lives.
ਇਹ ਕੇਸ ਤਾਂ ਕਈ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ where we try to help different people. As in the charity, we do a lot of client work where we are counselling as well. So someone comes in and they want help one-on-one. We do that counselling.
Doctor, we were just talking about in the break that area-wise, West Midlands, which is over the last 15 years, it's increased. Can you actually give us some statistics on that?
Yeah, sure. The doctor who used to run the unit in the Midlands, the alcohol unit, was picking up that a lot of Asians were coming in through his door, and so he studied it. And what he found was that over the 1990s, the decade of the 90s, the death rates tripled amongst people, amongst Asians. Now, I mean,
in the West Midlands.
In the West Midlands, yeah, absolutely, tripled.
ਤਿੰਨ ਗੁਣਾ ਹੋ ਗਈਆਂ ਯਾਨੀ ਪਿਛਲੇ 15 ਸਾਲਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੈਸਟ ਮਿਡਲੈਂਡ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸ਼ਰਾਬ ਕਰਕੇ ਮੌਤਾਂ 3 ਗੁਣਾ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਵੱਧ ਗਈਆਂ that's a huge increase. I don't think that's increased like that with the white people, is it?
Well, I think what happened was in the 90s there was an explosion of alcohol deaths in the country, and it maybe doubled during the 90s. But for in the West Midlands they were finding it was tripled. So yes, I mean it's a massive explosion. However you look at it, it's a massive explosion of numbers.
एक बर्मिंघम ਵਿੱਚ इस pub culture बहुत है. मैं देखा कि मैं 2 दिन बर्मिंघम रहना हूँ. Rest of the days I'm in Southall. Yeah, and we Birmingham, so you know go there, and I've seen कि आम तौर ते बंदे ਜਿਹੜੇ ਆ कि ਉਹ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਪੱਬਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ ਬਰਮਿੰਘਮ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿ some ਤਾਂ ਰੋਜ਼ ਹੀ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ ਪੱਬ ਨੂੰ and they'll have a few beers or you know there seems to be a lot more on the increase in the West Midlands as you pointed out. Why do you think that is? Why do you think the West Midlands ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿ ਇਦਾਂ ਦਾ ਕਲਚਰ ਬਣਿਆ ਸਾਡੇ ਖਾਸ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ ਪੰਜਾਬੀਆਂ 'ਚ?
Yeah, I think basically the culture there is slightly different to here in London, where everybody gathers and goes to a pub frequently. It's something that has been going on for many years now. But I do feel that in London, especially in the Ealing borough, that this is a major issue as well, where people are drinking every day. So it's not just in Birmingham. Obviously the stats that Dr. Gurprit has said were from Birmingham.
So how do we do, I mean, there's two sort of things really. The first thing we need to know is how do we prevent someone becoming addicted to alcohol? And does alcohol actually have addictive qualities? And then if someone is addicted to it, how can we cure it? Or is there a cure for it?
So just very quickly backtrack to what you were asking about the culture.
Yeah.
I'd just add to that.
Yeah.
Sikhs are now saying that it's become part of our identity, alcohol.
To have a drink.
To have a drink. So if you're going to describe yourself and people say, well, who are you? You say, I'm a Sikh. And you say, well, what are Sikhs? You say, well, we're the group that drink a lot. Right?
I actually have heard that, and we can't deny that all right, it's wrong to say that because that's not even true to technicality or whatever, but yeah, it has become an identity. Yeah. So sometimes you get Irish people who say, oh, you lot of Sikhs, you lot drink more than us.
That's right.
And you're sitting there thinking, okay, drink more than an Irishman, are you sure about that? And they'll sit there and go, yep, I'm sure you lot drink more than us. And yet I think population-wise, there's a lot more Irishmen than there are probably Sikhs over here. And but we seem to be up there amongst the drinking ranks, definitely I think in the top 3, probably.
That's exactly what we are. So if we look at the figures, we are in the top 3.
Are we?
We're absolutely in the top 3. The Irish, the Scottish, and the Punjabis.
Punjabis are third.
They're
in the top 3.
They're in the top 3. Yeah. So those are the 3 major groups in this country who have a very big problem with deaths coming from alcohol. Massive problem. Everybody knew about the Irish. Yeah. Everybody knew about the
Scottish. Yeah.
It was known.
Irish have got Guinness, the Scotch got the whiskey.
But Indians,
to drink.
People were unaware of the problem amongst Indians. But now studies have come out that prove the fact that Indians have a problem with alcohol in their communities.
As a community, how do we tackle this? How do you approach someone? If my dad was drinking a lot, I think I'd be very loath, right? Probably in fear of getting a clip round the ear. Of saying to him, Dad, तू ज़्यादा पीना. How come, especially साड़ी ये बीबियाँ हैं, वो कितना कह सकते कि पिछले ज़माने में बात तो ज़्यादा अब मुंडे दे माँ पे जो कहते अपने husband ने सास सौरे ने कहते कि थोड़ा मुंडा ज़्यादा पींदा. But a problem, how can we solve this? कोई भी बच्चा अपने माँ पे नहीं मेरा ख्याल कहूँगा कि तुसी ज़्यादा पीने हैं या कि ये और ओना दे पीन नाल बच्चा दे भी असर पैंदा, वाइफा दे भी असर पैंदा. How can a banda deal with this?
I feel that this is one of the issues that we have where like you say, a child cannot tell his parents whether they're drinking too much or if there's an issue. This is somewhere where we come into it as an organisation, Drug and Alcohol Action Programme, where we mediate between the parents and the youth, the child, where if the child's feeling that they're neglected, then we're there to help them. Or same time, if Bibi's feeling her son's drinking too much, then we're there again for the
sit down and take them through it.
Yes.
And try and mediate and sort the problem out.
Yeah, it's all about harm minimisation at that stage. Obviously, speaking to them would further the see what the problem is and where it lies.
Have a couple of drinks. Ehi sort which that will make us happy banauga, right? Is he happy ho jange? But actually, duje din jo साड़ी उत्तर दी hangover उस वेले तो ਅਸੀਂ खुश बहुत ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਭੰਗੜਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਪਾਉਂਦੇ ਆ ਦੂਜੇ ਵੇਲੇ it does make us feel people do get depressed.
Absolutely.
So there's a link between it.
A clear link. So just to sort of agreeing with what Sukhdeep was saying, essentially, I mean, people who drink in excess amounts, often you can find there's a problem going on that you could say is something that they can't confront.
Right.
So they'll drink in excess so they don't have to look at that problem. Now at the time when they're being drunk, they're fine. But of course the problem is that they get sober afterwards and then they either have to confront the problem at that time or they're going to do themselves some damage or they're going to get depressed. So alcohol is a depressant, and what it does is it depresses the brain cells, and what it does is it depresses the front part, the frontal lobe of the brain first, and what that does is a release, it's a release for the rest of the brain, okay? And so you become disinhibited, you become more talkative, you can run around, jump around, dance around. And the reason it's doing that is because alcohol is actually depressing one part of the brain that normally puts the brakes on our behaviour.
So basically, ਜਿਹੜੀ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਦਿਮਾਗ ਹੈ ਉਸ ਪਾਰਟ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸਮਝਾਉਂਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਤੂੰ ਖੌਰੂ ਨਾ ਪੱਟ, alcohol ਉਹਨੂੰ ਦਬਾ ਦਿੰਦਾ ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਬਾਕੀ ਫਿਰ ਇਸ ਲੱਗੇ ਇਆਂ ਜਾਓ ਫਿਰ ਰੈਸਟ ਫਿਰ ਬਾਕੀ ਫਿਰ ਖੁੱਲੀਆਂ ਛੁੱਟੀਆਂ ਮਨਾਉਂਦੇ ਆ ਤਾਂ ਹੀ ਬੰਦਾ ਬਿਹੇਵ ਕਰਦਾ ਦਾਰੂ ਪੀ ਕੇ ਜੋ ਅਸੀਂ ਦਾਰੂ ਪੀ ਕੇ ਉਹ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਜੋ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਦੇ sober ਕਦੇ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ.
Absolutely.
We would never do. Would never do half the stuff I done when I'm drunk if I was sober. And the next day we sit there and regret. Is that the reason it actually depresses the
So
brain
it's a
cells?
depressant. It's a depressant. So it depresses those nerve cells in the brain. And then what happens is that if you somebody who drink a lot, then what happens is as the brain starts to come undepressed, those nerve cells come back to life. They become overexcitable. And so what happens for people who drink too much is the next day is they can have the shakes because the brain's overexcited.
Yeah, that's right. A lot of people get the shakes.
And also,
absolutely,
and then that can progress the shakes to more severe forms where people can actually have epileptic seizures as the alcohol starts to wear off.
Do you know what I call in Punjab? Mirgi karne se, or fix karne.
Yes.
Then that happens, can happen as alcohol related.
It's absolutely alcohol. Withdrawing from alcohol, that's what can happen. And that potentially can kill you.
That can kill you?
Yeah.
Well, it's a lot to take in.
Yes.
Medically, it's a lot to take in. What about people who say, well, I don't think I drink a lot. Yeah, I can handle my drink. I drink sensibly and all that. Is there such a thing as, is alcohol such a thing that you can control how much you drink, or at some stage, is it going to take over in the end? If someone says, right, I can definitely control the amount I drink, I'm not alcoholic. So if he has 2 beers every night, or he has 3 beers every night, can that be an alright thing for you, or a good thing for you? Or is that person kidding himself thinking, I can control this?
I think for the majority of people, who can drink sensibly, that's fine. And alcohol does bring some pleasure to people, and there's no problem with that at all. And it's not to say to people not to drink. People should, if they want to, have a drink. But it's when they drink too much. And so, yes, for a large number of people, they're quite capable of just restricting the numbers of drinks to 1 or 2 drinks.
I think it's becoming a part of culture for Asian women to drink now as well, or not? Or is it on the increase? When we were young, right, or when we used to go to weddings, when we were young, I was still young, but when we used to go to weddings 10, 15 years ago, when I remember my first wedding I ever went to, when I was 5 or 6, right, then the team weren't allowed to go on a Junaid, in the coach. They used to go on a Junaid, right, and I'd sit at home having a samosa, a lovely sexist culture as we are, right? But then recently, about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was like, the coaches are sort of gone, everyone goes in their cars as a family and all that. And alcohol is more available now than what it was. As brand we apne high class rakhan lag paye. Pehla assi bells, teachers वगैरह रखते sige. Now we Shivas rakh rahe hain, Bacardi, vodka, wine भी हुंदी है for मेहमानां ਲਈ ਉੱਥੇ ਪੀਣ ਲਈ. So it's slowly ਮੈਨੂੰ ਚੀਜ਼ ਘਟੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਲੱਗਦੀ, ਮੈਨੂੰ ਲੱਗਦਾ actually ਵਧ ਹੀ ਗਈ ਹੈ. And ਹੁਣ ਤੇ husband wife both champagne ਖੋਲਦੇ ਆ, and ਦੋਨੋਂ champagne ਪੀਂਦੇ ਆ. I'm not one to knock it because ਮੈਂ ਖੁਦ champagne ਪੀਤੀ ਬੋਤਲ ਖੋਲੀ on my wedding, right? And ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ but is there a danger that it's going to affect the women now a lot more?
Yes, because obviously the alcohol is flowing in Sikh weddings, we feel that there is a major problem within the Sikh women and men, especially at weddings. We feel that because it's so easily just accessible, it's just part of the party to enjoy. People are just drinking as much as they can, and just there's no limits. And that's where some of these problems come into it. You talk about harm minimization. There is no there's no restrictions to their drinking at weddings and stuff like that.
Just to take that forward, I mean, there are studies now showing that women are drinking more, and so the amount of abuse that's going on amongst women is nowhere near the amount of alcohol abuse that's going on for the Indian men.
Yeah.
But clearly there are women that do have a problem and are abusing alcohol for whatever reasons they've got. And they too need to be acknowledged, and they too need to be coming forward and accepting, seeking help from people like Sukhdeep and his organisation who can provide that sort of help for them.
You also mentioned, I think last time, that we were just talking upstairs, that it can also have an effect on childbirth and the ability to have children. And alcohol and as drinking while you're pregnant, there's a downside to that. Give us some tips, Dr. Okay, on if we want to, इसी जगह शराब जब पीनी भी ऐसी, right? कि कोई ये नहीं कह रहा, पहले तो कह लिया, let's clear it up. You're not, तुसी कोई ये नहीं कह रहे कि शराब ਛੱਡੋ ਸਾਰੀ ਰਾਈਟ ਕਿ ਸਾਰੇ ਛੱਡ ਕੇ ਬਹਿ ਜਾਈਏ ਉਦੋਂ 9 ਵਜੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਸ਼ਾਪਾਂ ਵਾਲਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਦੱਸੀ ਪੈ ਜਾਣੀ ਆਫ ਲਾਇਸੈਂਸ ਵਾਲਿਆਂ ਨੇ ਅੱਧਿਆਂ ਨੇ ਵਿਚਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਹੌਕਾ ਲੱਗ ਜਾਣਾ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੀ ਬਿਜ਼ਨਸ ਡਾਊਨ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਆ ਪਰ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ so what tips can you give us for a person who drinks especially spirits?
I think with spirits...
Always use Coke.
People with spirits, as you know, people pour home measures.
Yeah.
And home measures, as Sukhdeep was just pointing out earlier on.
The desi glassy that we bought.
Desi glassy, yeah. And that's far bigger than what you're going to get.
In our desi glassy, we usually have what, about 3 units of drink?
I guess so, yes.
3 units ਦਾ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਅਸੀਂ ਤਿੱਗਣਾ ਪੀਂਦੇ ਆ ਯਾਨੀ ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਗਲਾਸੀ ਪਾਉਨੇ ਆ ਹੱਥ ਭਾਰਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਆਪਣਾ ਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਮ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ ਗੋਰੇ ਤੇ ਚਲੋ 25 ml ਵਾਲੀ ਪਾਉਂਦੇ 50 ml ਵਾਲੀ ਪਾਉਂਦੇ ਵੱਧ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਧ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਕੋਲ ਮੈਜਰ ਰੱਖੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ but ਅਸੀਂ we pour a lot so we can shorten our glassy for a start.
Absolutely.
And so is it necessary to drink a glassy, or is it different types of beers, or what is it?
Absolutely. So our bodies get used to the alcohol that we give it.
Yeah.
So we need more and more alcohol to give the same effect. So all we need to do is start to just use different types of alcohol that have less strength. And our body will adjust to it and still have a nice effect. So instead of drinking spirits, we could drink, for example, lager. Instead of drinking 5% lager, we could drink 3% lager. Instead of drinking lager, we could think about drinking ale or Guinness, because we feel full after 3-4 pints. You'll feel satisfied. You won't need to drink anymore.
Is eating good for you while you're drinking? Khana changa hunda jad tusi peenne a thanu khana chahida zarur. And what does it do? It contains a drink, or it contains a damage. It acts as a sponge.
Essentially, yes.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely that.
Get plenty of sleep, I suppose, in between.
Sleep. But instead when you drink, have a pint of water instead of a pint of beer.
Well, I've started doing that now. When I have a drink, I've started drinking a lot of water, or I'll top up with a lot more Coke, and that I find it helps me last longer, and doesn't give me a headache in the morning and all of that. Yeah. And I suppose it's drinking a bit sensibly.
Yeah.
Because ਅਸੀਂ ਲਾਰਗਰ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੁਣ some people ਤਾਂ ਪੀਂਦੇ ਹੋ ਸਪੈਸ਼ਲ ਟੈਨੈਂਟ ਦੇ ਡੱਬੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ 9.5-13% ਵਾਲੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਉਹ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਲੱਗੇ ਗਲਾਸੀਆਂ ਨਾਲ ਵੀ ਭਰੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ some of them are worse than ਗਲਾਸੀਆਂ especially in Southall the amount of empty super tenant or lager dabbe you see on the floor in Southall there's loads there and it's a great problem. Chalo, we've got some callers on the air, people want to talk about the issue. Okay. And let's see what they say. Hello.
ਹੈਲੋ ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਭਾਜੀ।
ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਭੈਣ ਜੀ।
ਭਾਜੀ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਇੰਨਾ ਵਧੀਆ ਹੈ ਨਾ।
ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ ਭੈਣ ਜੀ।
ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਸੋਹਣਾ ਹੈ, ਮੈਂ ਹਰ ਇੱਕ ਮੰਡੇ ਦੇਖਦੀ ਆ। ਹਾਂਜੀ। ਪਰ ਲੇਕਿਨ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਅੱਜ ਟੌਪਿਕ ਰੱਖਿਆ ਨਾ, ਯਾਨੀ ਅੱਜ ਕੱਲ ਦੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਜਨਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਹੈ ਨਾ, ਹਾਂਜੀ, ਉਹ ਭਾਜੀ ਪਤਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਿਉਂ ਇੰਨੀ ਸ਼ਰਾਬ ਪੀਂਦੇ ਆ ਨਾ। ਭੈਣ ਜੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਪੀਂਦੇ ਆ। ਮੈਂ ਆਮ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ ਅੱਜ ਕੱਲ ਦੇ ਯੰਗਸਟਰਾਂ ਜੇ ਬਹਿ ਕੇ ਪੀ ਕੇ ਦੇਖਿਆ ਮੇਰੀ ਤਾਂ ਬੱਸ ਕਰਾ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਸੱਚ ਦੱਸਾਂ। ਤੇ ਉਹੀ ਆ ਨਾ ਅੱਜ ਕੱਲ ਦੇਖੋ ਹੁਣ ਹਰ ਇੱਕ ਆਪਣੇ ਕਲਚਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਾਰੇ ਫੰਕਸ਼ਨ ਕਰਨੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ। ਹਾਂ। ਤੇ ਘਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹੋ ਹੀ ਡਰ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਕਿ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਇਹ ਕੰਮ ਨਾ ਖਰਾਬ ਕਰਨ ਕਿ ਸ਼ਰਾਬ ਪੀ ਕੇ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਲੜਨਾ ਪੈਣ ਕਿ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਅੱਜ ਕੱਲ ਤੇ ਹੁਣ ਅੱਜ ਕੱਲ ਬੱਚੇ ਕੋਈ ਸਮਝਦਾ ਥੋੜੀ ਗੱਲ ਮਾਂ ਬਾਪ ਨੂੰ ਸੁਣਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਮਰਜ਼ੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਪਾਰਟੀਆਂ ਵੀ ਕਰਨੀਆਂ ਆ ਤੇ ਇਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਹਨਾ ਅੱਜ ਥੋੜਾ ਇਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਤਾਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਚੰਗਾ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਹੈ। ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ ਭੈਣ ਜੀ। ਭਾਜੀ ਇਹਦਾ ਇਲਾਜ ਕੀ ਹੋਵੇ ਨਾ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਸਮਝਾਈਏ ਜੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਨੂੰ ਮਾਰੇ ਕੁਛ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਉਹ ਖਾਣ ਨੂੰ ਪੈਂਦਾ ਮੋਰੇ ਬਸ ਬੱਚੇ ਸੁਣਦੇ ਕੋਈ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗਾ। ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਹੁਣ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਥੋੜੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਹੁਣ ਕਹੀਏ ਕਿ ਕਰੀਏ ਕਿ ਫਸ ਗਏ ਹੈ ਕਸੂਤੇ ਫਸ ਗਿਆ ਅਸੀਂ ਤਾਂ ਫਸੇ ਤਾਂ ਹੁਣ ਚਲੋ ਭਾਜੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਮੈਂ ਵੀ I was very young when I come to this country ਤੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਵੀ ਦੇਖੇ ਸੀ ਆਪਣੇ ਪੇਰੈਂਟਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਏਦਾਂ ਸੀਗਾ ਮੇਰੇ I've been married for 30 years ਤੇ ਏਦਾਂ ਦੀ ਕਦੀ ਕੋਈ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ ਆਈ ਪਰ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੁਣ ਅੱਜ ਕੱਲ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੈ ਨਾ ਇਹ ਤਾਂ ਪਲੀਜ਼ ਕੁਛ ਨਾ ਕੁਛ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਇਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ। ਚਲੋ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੁਣ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਕਿ ਕੀ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਕੋਲ ਸੁਝਾਅ ਆ। ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ ਭੈਣ ਜੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਫੋਨ ਕੀਤਾ। ਥੈਂਕਸ ਅ ਲੋਟ ਐਂਡ see there is a problem now as you've quietly pointed out. How do we stop our younger generation from drinking? Well, not stop them, or just tell them to drink sensibly. ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਇਹੀ ਕਹੂੰਗਾ to all the kids out there. Right, the main thing is your parents worked everything off to come here. They came here with nothing. They've got houses here. Yeah, we're using their money to have a drink. We're only successful because they brought us up. Every kid should try and please their parents. Or if you can't please them, then don't try and upset them. That's a main part of our culture. Well, we're all here, right? We all know what the crack is, and we have disagreements with our parents. But how does a parent say just try and stop a kid from drinking? It's just drinking excessively. How do we do that in our community? It's become, you're right, when you go out to parties and all that, I've seen kids go to parties and nick
bottles and take them round the back behind the hall and have their own little sessions, and they drink more than the Bundy, you know, and they'll take a few bottles. Is it because alcohol's so freely available, or what?
It's partly that, isn't it? But also I think it's a macho image to be able to drink lots of alcohol.
Yeah.
You listen to men talking to each other, they'll brag about how much they were able to drink on the weekend. They say, we had 1-2 bottles, you know, and another person will try and beat it. And so it becomes this macho culture that we've got, I'm afraid, that sort of eggs people on to drink more and more.
I was going to say, साडे पंजाबी जो ਅਸੀਂ ਗਲਾਸੀ ਲਾਉਨੇ ਆ, ਫਿਰ even the ਛੋਟਾ ਤੋਂ ਛੋਟਾ ਵੀ ਚੌੜਾ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ ਪਹਿਲਵਾਨ ਸਮਝਦਾ ਦਾਰਾ ਸਿੰਘ ਕਿ ਆ ਜਾ ਹੁਣ ਮੈਂ ਜੀ ਹੁਣ 1.5 ਬੋਤਲ ਪੀਤੀ, ਮੈਂ 2 ਪੀਤੀਆਂ, ਅਸੀਂ ਕੰਪੀਟੀਸ਼ਨ ਜੇ ਬਣ ਲੱਗ ਪਈ ਆਪਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿ ਕੌਣ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਪੀ ਸਕਦਾ ਕੌਣ ਨਹੀਂ. And people have these sort of, people are drinking too much.
No, certainly. Just to follow up what Gurprit said, is we really need to put a stop on the open bottles on tables in weddings and parties, etc. I think that is something that we can all do. That's something that DAAP has as well.
Good luck to you, mate. I don't know how really people are going to do that, because it's a social thing.
Yes.
Because ਪਹਿਲੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੈ ਜੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਵਿਆਹ ਤੇ ਜਾਈਏ ਤਾਂ ਉੱਥੇ ਮੀਟ ਸ਼ਰਾਬ ਨਾ ਹੋਏ, ਅਸੀਂ ਇੱਕ ਦੂਜੇ ਨੂੰ ਮਿਹਣੇ ਮਾਰ ਲਾਂਗੇ, ਲੈ ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਵਿਆਹ ਸੀ ਉੱਥੇ ਤਾਂ ਮੀਟ ਸ਼ਰਾਬ ਨਹੀਂ, ਮੈਨੂੰ ਆਪਣੀ ਗਲਾਸੀ ਲੈਣੀ ਪਈ ਉੱਥੇ ਜਾਈਏ ਨਾ. And ਕਈ ਸਾਡੇ ਵਰਗੇ, we've been to weddings for 30 years and we've eaten and drunk freely there, and when it's our turn to marry our kids off, we're expected to do the same. It's a social circle.
It's all good to have drink alcohol at the wedding, but maybe just have it behind a bar where you've got, you know, certain people can go over, have a drink, and you know, socialise. It's all good.
Yeah.
But when it's on table and it's so easy, like you say, kids are running around with bottles and stuff, then it becomes an issue, you know.
I think that ਹੁਣ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਵਿਆਹ ਫੈਮਲੀਆਂ 'ਚ ਬਹਿ ਕੇ ਹੋਣ ਲੱਗ ਪਏ ਨਾ, family people as a family, ਇਹਦਾ ਫਾਇਦਾ ਹੋਇਆ ਕਿਸਮ ਦਾ, because some blokes before they get hammered, right, they actually think, oh ਮੇਰੇ ਨਿਆਣੇ ਬੈਠੇ ਮੋਰੇ, and the kids don't make a fool out of us, ਜਾਂ ਮੇਰੀ wife ਬੈਠੀ ਮੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ ਤੇ ਇਹ ਫਿਰ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਚੱਕਦੀ ਫਿਰੂ ਜੋ ਮੈਂ ਉਲਟੀਆਂ ਕਰਦਾ ਫਿਰੂ. Before there used to be all blokes going on the gins. I remember the first wedding I went to on a coach. We went to Coventry, then I'm going to see Coventry. There must have been about 4 fights, and you know, dog seater, the ultiਆਂ ਭਰੀਆਂ ਪਈਆਂ ਸੀਗੀਆਂ. This is all that. You're right. It's something that's been happening for the last 25 years. ਚਲੋ ਅਸੀਂ ਹੁਣ ਕਾਲ ਵੱਲ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ, see what they've got to say. Hello.
Hello. Hi.
Hi there.
Hi. Well, okay. I just wanted to say like a few things.
Right.
I think this is really good how you're just making people aware of what's been going on.
Thanks a lot.
But, as for like, you know, like Asian music, like if you look at all the Bhangra songs that are out, it's all about, you know, getting drunk, like, you know, hore galassi and all that.
Farla gaddi di chabbi.
Yeah, exactly. It's like promoting, like it's making it look like it's fun, you know.
And it's hip, yeah.
When you're out at parties and stuff, so obviously, you know, you have a joke and you have a drink or two. So I was thinking, like, obviously, you know, being in the Asian community, that's like another factor of media that plays into it.
Do you think our singers should have a more responsibility to sing sensibly for a start?
Yeah, because half the time you listen to the songs, you do laugh at them and you think, what's the meaning behind it? But really, what the meaning is just alcohol and getting drunk and having fun with your friends. That's what seems to be having fun.
Yeah, no one really sings about the domestic violence and the headache you get from your missus in the morning.
Exactly. But I just had a question, basically. What it was is, you know, let's say, you know, uni students, when you go out, you live away from your parents, you don't have, you know, your parents telling you on a regular basis you can't be doing this and you can't be doing that, so you're given that freedom.
Yeah.
So let's say, you know, that freedom that you're given, and then you binge drink, basically. Let's say you're going out for somebody's birthday and 2-3 nights in a row, you're going out and you're having your alcohol. Mainly to the doctor, I wanted to ask, let's say if you binge drink for that weekend and then you don't drink for a long period of time, is that affecting you more than you would be if you were drinking on a regular basis, or how does it work? Is that just as bad?
Yeah, I mean, binge drinking is bad. I mean, if you think about what you're doing, you're taking a large amount of alcohol in one sitting, and so if you measure the concentration of alcohol in your blood, it sort of peaks at a very high rate, and at that high level, that's when it's causing the damage. And so binge drinking is considered to be harmful.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
so like, let's say if you're drinking, let's say, a glass of wine, like everyone says, like, you know, you should be drinking a glass of wine, it's supposed to be good for you and whatnot. Let's say if you're drinking a glass of wine a night, and then as opposed to binge drinking, is that just as bad? No,
that's fine. So we know that a small amount of alcohol probably is protective. It actually probably does protect your heart. But when we say a small amount of alcohol, we're talking about a small measure of wine. a day, which is fine. I've got absolutely no issue with that because it doesn't affect your health. In fact, it might even be protective.
Okay, all right, okay, thank you for that.
Okay, thanks a lot. Thank you very much for your call. It's ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਦੇਖੋ ਸ਼ਰਾਬ ਥੋੜੀ ਜੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜੋ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਸੀ ਗਲਾਸੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜਾਂ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਈਨ ਦਾ ਗਲਾਸ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਪੀਓ ਰੋਜ਼ ਐਂਡ ਦੈਟਸ ਉਹ ਠੀਕ ਹੈ, ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਪੀਂਦੇ ਆ ਹੁਣ ਸਾਡੇ ਬੰਦੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇੱਕ ਗਲਾਸ ਲੈਤਾ ਵਾਈਨ ਤੇ ਉਹ ਹੱਸਦੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਤਾਂ 3-4 ਬੋਤਲਾਂ ਪੀ ਲੈਂਦੀਆਂ ਵਾਈਨ ਦੀਆਂ. I remember we was watching the program, the Gurprit Pannu that used to come on Channel 4, and it was a wedding, and he was saying, yeah, my doctor told me drinking wine is good for you, but he never told me how much, right? So I've drank 3 or 4 bottles of wine, and this is our culture. People got to learn that ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਡੈਮੇਜ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਫੰਕਸ਼ਨ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਉਹ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਪੀਂਦੇ ਆ ਭਾਵੇਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਸੋਚ ਭਾਵੇਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੀਕ ਸੋਚੋ ਕਿ ਚਲੋ ਮੈਂ ਸਿਰਫ ਸੈਚਰਡੇ ਸੰਡੇ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਪੀਣੀ ਆ ਫਿਰ ਮੈਂ 5 ਦਿਨ ਨਹੀਂ ਪੀਣੀ ਤਾਂ ਜਿੰਨਾ ਨੁਕਸਾਨ ਉਹ ਸੈਚਰਡੇ ਸੰਡੇ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਉਹ ਉਹਦੇ ਨਾਲੋਂ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਕਿ ਭਾਵੇਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਰੋਜ਼ you can divide that up into little bits.
Absolutely right, yeah.
So,
absolutely. I mean, I think the thing is that
it's like management, time management in a way, isn't it?
It's learning how to drink sensibly. So what's happened is that the generation before us, they didn't drink sensibly. I know what the first caller said, but actually the studies show, if you look back in the 80s, the local studies that were showing in Southall, there was a massive amount of admissions to hospital for psychiatric cases to hospital amongst the Sikh population, Punjabi population. So we know there was a problem back then. It's got worse, but there was definitely a problem. And what's happened is our generation have learnt our drinking habits from the previous generation. So the previous
and perfected them.
And taken
we've gone on further, we've perfected them.
And so as the previous caller was talking about sort of going to university and not having the parental control anymore. So what have we learned? We've learned from all our other relatives how to drink in a very bad way, and so we go to university and that's the habit we use.
Yeah, and we stick in that habit.
And it's a mistake because as we can see the death rate is massive.
Right, let's go on to give us our time. Thoda reh gaya sare akhirli caller wal janne see what they got to say. Hello. Sat Sri Akal ji.
Yeah, I just want to mention that it's a good discussion show that you're having.
Thanks.
But I don't think we should sort of, the main problem I think is that Papua New just got a problem, they see a bottle and they can't see it half empty or half full.
Yeah, do you reckon that's it? Do you reckon that's it? We just can't say no? Do you reckon that's our problem?
I think it's the biggest problem, I mean, myself, I stopped drinking 7 years ago.
Right.
I knocked it on the head.
Why did you knock it on the head? Why did you stop drinking?
I had enough of the crowd that I was hanging around with.
Right. You thought that because of you drinking that you attracted a bad crowd, or?
No, not a bad crowd itself.
Yeah.
Good enough friends and whatever.
Yeah.
In that uni circle, basically I wanted to get on with my life.
Right.
Yeah, and I broke away from that circle, and fair enough, married now, they're married as well.
Yeah.
They're carrying on doing those things, Friday and Saturday night, getting, having a glassy here and there, and I wanted to move away from that, and I've moved away from it and built a successful life for myself.
Do you find it hard now? Do people take the mickey out of you when you say, right, you don't drink, or do people say, right, well, go on, have one,
Well, they did at first. They think, he's got it, something wrong with him, this, that, the other, and then Holly, Maharaj Karpana, kept my daddy case, got into my Sikhi, and then, Amra Shatlian, that's a different story altogether. But so going apart from the religious side, the main factor is that your peers, your so-called friends, they sort of, that sort of circle you need to sort of sort out first. You need to sort out who your real friends are and who are not, basically. Some just hang around just for that circle, because you drink, or just socialise within that sort of area. And then you sort of find out who the real friends are and who are not. And who used to hang around with you just for the, socialising, drink, or having that type of banter, going pubs, clubs, and going gigs or whatever like that. As soon as you move away from that, then you sort of find out who your real friends are.
Do you ever miss it, buddy?
I missed, to be honest, to be totally honest with you, buddy, I did have withdrawal symptoms to begin with.
Yeah, you must have, yeah.
I did. Yeah, and you used to often think about those friends and that.
Yeah, and you think, what have I done, man?
That went on for about a good 6-7 months, I reckon, but after that I cleared out of my head.
Yeah.
And got on with my life, and I've never been happier, mate.
Oh, brilliant. Good success story, buddy. Thank you for your call. And it does prove that people can change. People can change.
We're not stuck like this. We can change.
Have you got a final message before we say bye-bye to our callers?
Yes, the final message from DAAP is that if you feel that you have any issues, we are there for you to come and speak to us. Our number is 0208 843 0945.
Okay, so 0208. What's your number again, sorry?
0208
Yeah.
843
Yeah.
0945.
And where are you based?
We're based in Southall.
So you're actually in Southall?
That's correct.
Right, okay. And you have a website?
Yeah, www.daap.org.uk.
And Doctor, if someone wants to get in touch with you, how can they get in touch with you?
You can get through on www.saf.org.uk. So that's the way to get hold of me. Last point I'd just like to make is that alcohol industry is worth £30 billion a year.
Yeah, you're not going to stop making booze.
They're doing a very good job of promoting their booze.
Yeah.
I think as Punjabis we shouldn't be encouraging others to say come on, keep drinking, and forcing others people with peer pressure to keep drinking alcohol.
We drink like we're on commission from the alcohol industry, but we're not getting anything out of it. In fact, we're ruining ourselves, probably a poor advert for it. मैं ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਹਰਜਾਪ ਤੇ ਹਰੇਕ ਮੰਡੇ 7 ਵਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਆਪਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਸਾਡੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਦੀਆਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਬਾਹਰ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ NRIਆਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਦੇਸ਼ ਦੀਆਂ ਤੇ ਜੋ ਅੱਜ ਕੱਲ ਦੇ ਇਸ਼ੂ ਹੈਗੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਅਫੈਕਟ ਕਰਦੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ So let's talk with Harjap.